3, 2, 1. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you live to episode number 8 of the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series. I'm Joey Jarzynka. We are blessed to have Chicago Cubs Major League hitting coach Anthony Iapoce with us here. It is Thursday evening, not the greatest outside, so we are glad if you are watching in the Long Island area, New York area, that you are sitting home comfortably, safely, and healthy, watching the two of us have a gorgeous conversation. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me here on my newest project here.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Good reaching out, and sounds like we'll have a good time talking about baseball and what's going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's I'm really glad that we were just talking, before off camera that everything is so far okay with you and the family, and now that school is out, you have 3 children, and now it's homeschool time for you and Sue.
Yeah, so we have Lily 7, Abby 4, Anthony just turned 3. So Lily's in 2nd grade and Abby's pre. So we're definitely super lucky with Sue's background and her teaching for 18 years in the public school system in Queens. And then also she's not teaching right now in school, so she doesn't have to do both, where I know some parents are really, struggling with that, where they have to work and teach their kids at the same time. Sue's able to devote all her attention, each morning, early afternoon, to the kids, making sure that they get their work they need to get done, while I take little man downstairs for a few hours in the basement or the backyard and try to keep him on lockdown so the girls can work upstairs.
I love it. So now the question to you is that when you bring the little man Anthony, when you bring him downstairs, what do you guys do? What's the activities like?
Actually,
right now?
I'm sitting in the basement right now, and it's all it's just like toys and stuff like that. So as I look around, you have your daily routine. You have your Picasso tile, so he could build. He likes building things, and he likes his tool shed over here in the corner where he's fixing stuff. Then he likes to throw some balls around. And then he'll go over to the kitchen and make food, and then we'll wrestle for a little bit. So Play-Doh is a huge one.
Yeah.
Oh, Play-Doh
wow.
Forever. Yeah, they get all kinds of stuff now. Sparkle Play-Doh, color Play-Doh, all kinds of tools and gadgets. So we'll do some puzzles. Just kind of pretty much anything you have in the house that has to be played with will be played with every day. And then go out to the yard and like we said, we got a little yard, and we're able to run around, and got a net, a basketball hoop, but then little bikes and balls that they just throw around, and you sit, you throw on some music, and then you let the kids just kind of animate and play, let their imagination run and kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah, and I'm sure Sue is extremely happy to have you home, because normally during the year, you're gone from February all the way until normally
Right.
October, November, and then you're right back on the road come February. So this is like another mini off season almost.
Yeah, it's like the mindset is that there's the hard part, even with players, which we'll probably get into, is you don't know when you're going back or what intent behind your thought process. So you just kind of truly be in the moment as much as you can with your family and what you're trying to do, and just kind of wait for a call of what's going on further. So the only time you're really home at this time is when we play the Mets or Yankees and the All-Star break. So they were actually in Arizona for a week right before I came home on March 15th or 16th. Not sure the exact date, but that was when they gave us the option to go home or stay in Arizona, and been home ever since.
Well, that's good. Like I said, I'm really glad that you're home with the family, healthy, safe, and you keep little Anthony out of harm's way and everything, and you keep him company, and while as you said earlier, the girls are upstairs getting their schooling and everything. Really happy to hear that. So I want to continue with just a few weeks ago. I remember you, along with, actually, I saw a few other baseball players do it who I'm friends with on social media. But also another friend of mine actually did it, who played at St. John's University. And what it was, I believe what you posted was a picture of where baseball began for you. And it was a picture of, you had the
I got it with me.
Yeah, you have. Yeah,
I take it everywhere.
Yeah, you have the manhole in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's just the way you make the diamond and everything, and that's how it all began. Tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, it's right here. It's right here.
That's it. Yeah. Where did it all start?
So this happens. I'm a big believer in this. So this is a story of Queens, 42nd Street and 25th Avenue, and this is where you pretty much played, stick ball and touch football every day.
Yeah.
And just kind of drew out where the first base is, second base, third base, and then, kind of where the home run is and things like that. But, I was working with the Cubs in 2014. It was right before instructional ball, and went for a run in my old neighborhood and came and just ran down this block, and a lot of memory starts coming back. And sometimes you are so thrown into your work or whatever you are in your life up to date, you kind of sometimes you forget where you came from just for a little bit, and I always try to make sure I never forget where it came from, but just some things to re-energize you. And as I stood there, I started to have all these memories of all these things where you didn't have coaches. Nobody was training you to hit. Nobody was training you to catch the ball. You would compete against other kids in the neighborhoods or other neighborhoods that would come down and play for a few hours and play stick ball. I think it provided you to play with like freedom and to not be judged, right? You're just competing against each other and you're hanging out and you have to make your own decisions. You're very accountable at that, at that age when you're playing in the streets or the parks. I think somehow we have gotten away from that on our amateur side. So what I do with this is I brought it back to that instructional ball and presented it to our instructional players and the coaching staff. And then each player would present where they're from. You just Google Earth it. And what I noticed was that anytime they would talk about it or stand in front of their teammates, the smile would come around right away. And it was where they were confident. It was where they learned how to play. It was where they had the most fun. It was where they were energized. All these emotions start coming back to them. Then I took it to the big league teams with the Rangers and the Cubs, and we would do it last year before our meetings to go over, say we're playing the Mets or the Cardinals. And after we get done with the meeting, I go, okay, Anthony Rizzo, you're up today. And I'd give him a 2-day advance so they, and it's taken us all over the world. And honestly, the players can't wait to present. They're like, where am I going? Can I go on the next meeting? Because they want to show whether it was Dominican, Venezuela, Korea, Curacao, Canada, all the states, Mexico. I mean, it's taken us around, but it's also a way of the players just to really get to know each other, and kind of really show where you're from. And what I've noticed when you show this, everybody's kind of almost have the same type of thing. It's a field, it's a street, it's a public park, it's a schoolyard, and they're just out there playing without any coaches.
Now, do you do this now? When you did this, did you do it with just the hitters, or did you do it with the whole team?
I would, with the teams was coaching in the big leagues, it was just the hitters, and I would also pick coaches or R&D guys who are involved with us or scouts who work with us every day. They would have to present because our pitching and hitting meetings or offensive meetings are usually at the same time in different rooms.
Right.
When we did it with the Cubs and instructional ball, we did it with different players, because you have the time. But then I also, after I got done presenting it for the first time, I had players come into my office at the time and show me pictures of their living room. This is where I used to play softball. Wow. And so we had the players post stuff in their lockers, and just incredible stories of where guys start. I think if you really want to coach a player, you got to know where they're from. You know what I mean? You got to know where they're at and the things they've been through, some resiliency they face, so that you could relate to them and maybe give them some type of cues of things that relate to where they're from.
Now, have any of your fellow coworkers or your fellow coaches, have they, for instance, like your pitching coach, have we found out where Yu Darvish started?
Well, I haven't done it with you because he's always with the pitchers, but say with the Rangers, I had Shin-Soo Choo.
Yeah.
Right. And he took us to his home in Korea where he was in a building with a bunch of floors. Like you said, like 9 floors. He had to go downstairs across the street to use the restrooms and things like that. I mean,
wow.
So he took us there, and he would have to drive an hour back and forth to play baseball. But
yeah,
but that and it goes to my other point that if you're good enough and you love it enough and you work hard enough, at some point you'll get to where you need to go. Here's a guy who had to deal with that, and eventually, was one of the best players in baseball. So, I think parents kind of on the amateur side right now kind of get a little nervous or scared, which they should never get scared if their kids are playing sports and competing.
Yeah.
About college or about pro ball. If your kid is good enough, there's going to be different routes on how they get to the big leagues. And not everybody's going to be a first rounder and go through the minor leagues in 2 years to get to the big leagues. Some guys are going to play in the minor leagues for 7 years, or they may come from a Division II or a Division I lower school, or even D3 or junior college. So I think it's a good way to show people that like baseball players come from all over the world, from different backgrounds and different colleges at different levels.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that goes for every single sport. It can be, you can have someone from here, you could have someone from even in the inner city that, had never picked up something. We have right now at St. Francis, we have a Division I basketball player who never picked up a basketball in his life until about 2 years ago. And now he's playing in Division I ball, and he's actually really good. So if, whatever, exactly what you said, Anthony, whatever it is, you'll be found, and you have to just hop over those obstacles, and you'll eventually get there for sure.
Yeah.
That's honestly,
I think the toughest challenges for guys to get places are the adversity they face when they fail. So the first time, say a kid leaves high school, goes to college, or goes to pro ball, we lose a lot of guys in pro ball in the minor leagues, not because they're not good enough, but because they have a tough time handling adversity and failure and the grind of 140 games. So it's those guys who could get through that stick around, that get their chance.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And you know what? That was actually one of the talking points that I wanted to get to. But first, I do want to go in sort of chronological order. But the journey for you as a hitting coach and as a coach in general, from the minor leagues all the way to the major leagues, walk us through that, through the time that you had in minor league baseball and all the way now to be a major league hitting coach.
Yeah, I played 11 years in the minor leagues. I started out, you go back to Monsignor McClancy and Jackson Heights Queen, 1991 city champions, Yankee Stadium. You can't take that away. I have to say that in every interview, no matter where I do.
I love it.
Then went to Lamar University in Beaumont, Texas, got drafted in the 33rd round, played 11 years, 2 organizations with the Brewers and the Marlins. And the Marlins, I think it was after my 10th year, they didn't re-sign me as a minor league free agent, but they said, hey, if you ever want to come back as a coach, give us a call and if we have anything open. So played a couple more years, and I said, let me see what they got. If they have anything open, called them up. We have a spot open. It's part-time, $12,000, Jamestown, New York. You coach short season. So I did that. And then each year just kind of moved up as a hitting coach, and then got a job with the Blue Jays after 3.5 years with the Marlins as their hitting coordinator, which is in charge of their whole minor league system, developing plans, taking the draft players in, and whatever it's mechanical, it's approach, and just developing hopefully winners to get guys to the playoffs. Spent 3 years there, then went 3 years with the Cubs doing the same exact thing, but also went out for some scouting because we had high picks those 3 years I was there, some first rounders that me and some other coordinators went to look at. So you were running the whole Cubs organization on the offensive side, which was probably to this day the probably best 3 years of. I mean, it was when we were really building 3 years of my coaching career. We were just kind of building something from scratch and rebuilding, and have been a part of a rebuild with the Marlins and the Blue Jays already, and then seeing it come to fruition. From there, got an interview 2016 with the Texas Rangers, and so I spent 3 years there as their major league hitting coach, and then back with the Cubs. Going into this year would be my second year. So it was I didn't really get into coaching to be a hitting coach, right? I got into it because I wanted to help players, deal with the grind of the season and maybe not make the same mistakes I had as far as the mental side of the game, or just, overworking or overdoing whatever it is that kind of derails you for a little bit.
Right.
And so that took me into the hitting side for this portion of my career. Where it's going to go, I don't know. I don't know if I'm still going to be in hitting or do something else. Right now, you're hitting coach for the Cubs and you love it. Got a great bunch of guys to be around, and they're great to my family, and love being around them. So you never know where anything is going to take you. You sign up, you do the job for that year, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. And you know what? And something that I've been realizing in this industry too, is that wherever it is, whether it be, on in anything in sports generally, whether it be in sports management, in sports specifically where you are, every little bit you have to go, you can't stay home and do, and work from home or work at the, at the, like for instance, Long Island Ducks or something like that. You got to go out there and you have to see, people are out there that might find, you talent. And, and then eventually you work your way up to becoming the Cubs hitting coach. It takes a lot of time. A lot of people say to me, a lot of people say to just in general, you have to start somewhere, and it might not be, in New York. It might not be in Astoria where you were. It might be in Nebraska. It might be exactly where you said, in Jamestown, New York. It's,
Well, I think when you do that and you start out, so say like I started in Jamestown and then was a minor league coach in Greensboro and Jupiter, Florida. Then when I became a coordinator for the first time in a new organization, you got to relearn these players.
right.
And you're dealing with over 100 players, and now you're managing staff and you're managing managers and coaches and things like that. But you get a chance to figure out what type of coach or how you're going to do things through these failures. You know what I mean? Because if you coach for a year and you go right to the big leagues, you're really scuffling into who you want to be, and then if you fail, you're out right away. So you have all these building blocks that you've learned through the minor leagues and coaching and being around, the best players, the not so good players, other staff members, Hall of Fame players, Hall of Fame coaches, and you're around. So you just you take little nuggets from everybody and you crumple it up and you make it your own, start putting things on paper and video, and then you're okay, this is the way I want to go. And I'll tell you this, because I had a sheet about this long when I first started coaching to now it's like that. You know what I mean? You come in, you go, this is what I'm going to do. And then you realize like, you really don't need all of that. You need a little bit of stuff and continue to motivate guys and build relationships. So, but you get a chance in the minor leagues to do those types of things and try out things where you could do it for a day and be like, no, shouldn't have done that. We're in the show, like they might not talk to you for 2 weeks, so.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing too. And that's actually where I wanted to go to, where, it could be, let's say for instance, I don't want to say you mess up, but you go all the way to the show and then you fail. And then, okay, well, you don't have that building block again where, well, is a minor league team or is another major league team going to take a chance on you? So, and that's what you did. You worked your way up. It was exactly what Anthony Iapoce said, building blocks. And that's what hopefully all the viewers can understand. And if there are some youngsters out there, you're not going to make it to the show right away. It's going to take a lot of time.
It's going to take a lot of time and low pay. So, be ready to have like no furniture in your apartment. Like, now you're at least able to have like an iPad. You don't have to buy cable or anything, done all of that, so. And you realize you could get by like almost nothing,
Right. Yeah. And, and the good thing is, you could live right now. You could live off of Netflix. You could live off of Hulu, whatever it may be. But it's going to be in the middle of nowhere for barely any pay. But that's that in order to be where Anthony is right now, and for your co-coaches or your fellow coaches, you have to take those.
I think that's where you do your best work too, because you're so passionate and you're so happy to be somewhere, and you're all in on what you're doing, and you get surrounded by a couple more people that are with you. And my early time with the Marlins on our minor league staff, there's probably there were 3 major league managers and 8 major league coaches in that staff when we were coming up in those 3 years I was there. So it was a really cool time for us to be together and then branch out.
Now, the question for you is that when you were talking about just a few minutes ago about not really speaking with any of them, or if, God forbid you were to make a mistake or whatever the case may be, or, the learning. Now, during all of this, during this pandemic, obviously, now you have, you said you've had a list that was this, this wide, this high. And now with the technology being where it is, how do you have a coaching regimen where you basically get onto Zoom with Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, and say, all right, guys, this is what you guys should be doing, or what you guys have to be doing? What's your regimen now, or I guess do you have a plan
Well,
for it? Or
guys can only do what they're around, right? So you can't go anywhere. You can't go in, to any facilities. So if you have a soft toss net or a tee, or you have a big enough backyard for a machine, or you're able to get to the park where you're at, guys are doing what they can. And when I talk to other players, or high schools that obviously aren't playing, or college teams, or even I talked to a team from Mexico the other day from a couple of players I used to coach with the Blue Jays. And my message was like, just don't panic. Like, everybody's in the same boat. Like, you're just not going to jump ahead. You're not going to fall behind either. Stay physically healthy, stay mentally healthy on the task, keep visualizing yourself doing great things, go out, take a bunch of swings. The toughest part that the players deal with is the intent behind their practice right now. This has never been done in the history of sports. So really, you're just kind of staying in shape and doing what you can, but your mental behind it, like, you have an off-season regimen, right? You know exactly what to do. You have a pre-spring training regimen. You have a spring training regimen. You have an in-season regimen. So all these things, you have an injury prevention regimen. So all these things that when you work and you're building towards something. So the toughest thing for players and coaches right now, the intent behind what you're doing, right? So you're just trying to stay positive. We do Zoom meetings. The players, Anthony Rizzo started that with our players. They do it every Sunday. I've gone in a couple of them. I like the players to just kind of let them do it. We have a few coaches ones. That's about it. Nothing too crazy, just kind of updates. Because this is a time as well, from a coaching standpoint, where you can start diving into stuff that you would have never dove into, which could be a negative as well. You could go down a rabbit hole, as well as you can find some stuff that may help you later on. But there's some stuff that you could just kind of dive in and keep you spinning for a while. So they do what they can. They keep you updated. This is what I've been doing, and they're getting their swings in. But my advice is everybody's in the same boat. So don't be afraid that you're going to fall behind. You're not going to fall behind. Your swing isn't going to disappear out of nowhere. Like, you don't forget to ride a bike. You don't forget to get up and walk. You've been swinging long enough. It's just finding that intent behind what they're doing.
Yeah. So with that being said, and the mental part of it. So now you have different parts of the country where, well, it is a little cold still. You do have also the southern part of the country where it's hitting 90, 95 already, and it's only April 30th. So you have some of these players that, they have the ability to potentially, they have a batting cage in their basement, or they're able to do whatever the case may be.
Right.
Now, for, let's say, the younger kids, or even the aspiring major leaguer, if you will, whether it be baseball, any other sport, what would be, in, I guess, a tip if it's continuously raining? Like, for instance, Seattle is continuously raining, what would be your tip to that aspiring major leaguer or professional sports athlete, to keep a positive mindset onto, I guess, keep moving forward?
Yeah. So, like, just like what you're saying, depending on the weather, I think we're at the point now where if it's even raining a little bit, people are going outside if they can, social distance, to play catch or to do certain things. With certain guys, with us, like the weather, it doesn't matter if it's cold. They are going outside to be social distancing and play catch or hit off the tee in their yard or their front yard in their driveway. And guys are doing those types of things. I don't think I don't think it should kill a player's motivation. I think if anything, it's gonna push players who want it more, to just stay focused better and realize that you don't need all these things to get you ready for a season, whether it be summer ball, high school down the road, maybe fall ball. Who knows if football and basketball, when that's going to pick up on the amateur side of the high school, college level. But it's just to stay focused and stay so positive, with your daily stuff. So even if you're in your basement and you have like cushion balls and you just buy a net, you go to a store and you order, or you not go to a store, but you order online, you get a $20 net. And even if you're throwing from 15 feet, that's good. You could get your arm speed in motion. You could take dry swings, imagining yourself hit the ball. I'm telling you, all these things work, right? If your mindset is right on coming back, and you'll be ready, as opposed to your mindset thinking, oh my gosh, I'm falling behind, I'm not going to be ready. Everybody is in the same boat. Nobody's outdoing anybody right now. So it's I don't think it's a question of whether kids are going to stay motivated or not. If they truly love it and they truly like playing the game, they'll find a way to stay motivated. I think this is an outstanding time to watch MLB and ESPN games when they show not even old games, just games from like 20 years ago. I mean, that might be considered old for some people, but like, just watching the way, and they show the best games. They show the most competitive games there are out there to keep your juices flowing. Like our team, when we talk on Sundays or through text messages in a group, they can't stop talking about The Last Dance. Right. So they said a lot of those guys didn't come up like necessarily watching Jordan every single day, like people my age did, and we're just like in it. You're like, wow. So they're constantly talking about that and the team, and which keeps them going, So when we do come back, this will probably one of the most unselfish years in the history of baseball when we come back for the team, because it's probably going to be some type of shortened season. So for those kids out there, man, it's just stay competitive in the mind. It could be anything. You're just pushing yourself to work hard with as little as you have. So, but also watching those games on TV and picking out things and learning things, writing stuff down, things you want to do. I would, you could YouTube, Twitter stuff, but also wouldn't get lost in that, because then you could get psycho on it for hours and just be lost in it. So just really, really staying positive through it, and self-talk, like, okay, when this is over, I'm going to be able to do this. When this is over, I'm going to work at this. And when this is over, I'm going to continue to do this. So you have to keep having that mindset.
Yeah, and just to have that positive mindset of keep moving forward, exactly what we said earlier. And also, you said to watch the games. That's the biggest thing. And I have heard from actually a friend of mine, you hear he wants to try and get better, especially in just in the sports management industry and whatever the case is. And it's I want to watch a couple of games, I want to watch whatever. But the problem is, for some people, and one of which being a friend of mine, is that, well, I already know the result of the game. Well, okay, but you said it, you got to watch, and you have to, and if you're in the, talking about as a player, or even a coach or whatever, you have to watch the game and you have to really analyze. You have to pause it. And now in this day and age of DVR, there's really no excuse, and I hate to be, as real, as 100 as possible, but exactly, Anthony, what you said, with all of this, everything that we have now, we have to take full advantage, and those players have to take full advantage too. There's no doubt.
I think watching it now is not even necessarily about the result. It's like, from a baseball standpoint, right? Like, okay, watching how guys take their at-bats, watching how they do extra bases, watching pitchers, how they throw strikes so they command the zone. Just watching different players you've never seen before, right? Because they may be before your time. So, it's not so much as a result of, more importantly, of how players play the game. And the game of baseball is still the same. It's the same distances, it's still a round ball, round bat, so just to see how guys are competitive in the game.
Yep. Especially
in the playoffs, man. You watch the playoff games, whatever sport it is, it's a different beast. The amount of focus that these guys have, they're incredible.
Yeah. And also, with the, like I said, slow-mo, rewind, fast forward, pause, whatever the case is, there's, you have so many. Oh, I think we might have. Oh, there we go. It's like I said, no excuse. It's, it could definitely be done. So put the pandemic aside, spring training, regular season, February, late March. Give the viewers a day in the life of Anthony Iapoce.
Okay, so spring training, I'll just take you to midday spring training when we start playing games. Get to the field around 4:30, 4:35-ish. Try to get a workout in. I shouldn't say try. Usually get a workout in. Try to get in there at 5 o'clock, between 5 and 6. And there's a few other coaches in there, and I always think that's one of the best places early in the morning to share ideas and to bounce things, because you're kind of working out in the morning, you get everything going. That's when your brain works the best. Now you're conversing, you're bouncing things off for something that may happen, 3 or 4 days from now about practice with our coaching staff. After that, I'll go to the video room, watch some video of maybe the game before or some things the guys are working on. Because our video room gets really crowded in spring training, so I like to get there early in the morning, have no hiccups, nobody looking over your shoulder. What are you looking at? Blah blah blah, and then then you're off the case of what you're trying to do in the room by yourself. Take some notes, go out, get some breakfast, head to the cage around 7. Usually our first couple players in there, Jason Hayward, David Bodie are in there 7 a.m. Stretches it until, depending 9:30. So then they're in the cage 2 hours before. We have 5 cages going spring training because we have more than, the 12 or 13 that we have during the season.
Right.
So for me, it never matters what cage or what coach. So you have myself, assistant hitting coach Mel Sledge, another hitting coach, Juan Cabrera, and then our AAA and AA coach. It doesn't matter for me what cage the player is going in as long as he's getting his work. I'm watching, we talk, we conversate. From then, you get all the players out of there, start to stretch, we go out practice. That's kind of almost where you step back as a hitting coach because you put in a lot of time throughout that day. Maybe go in, watch some more video, look at some pitches you may be facing, opening week, stay ahead of that on the pitching side. Then the players who are starting will come back to the cage an hour before, half hour before, maybe get some swings in, do some machine stuff, whatever it may be, whatever they may like to get them ready, head to the game, and then then you just watch the game, and then you take notes for the next day, what might present in spring training with the coaching staff in the early meeting, and then with the players, conversations you might have that next day that went on during that game.
Huh. That
it's
is
a pretty loose. Spring training is really loose, like because there's I'm fortunate enough we have a bunch of guys that have been through spring training a lot.
right.
We have a couple of younger guys that maybe their first or second spring training, and each year you learn more about yourself and what you need to do to build up to spring training. The main goal is to break with a healthy team. Right. The stats don't matter, but it does become a challenge because players want to do good, even in spring training. Players want to get hits and they want to win games, but it's still no predicates to. If you have a good spring training, doesn't mean you're going to have a good season. If you have a bad spring training, doesn't mean you're going to have a bad season either. So it's just to make sure they're getting the things that they need to get ready for opening day. Even the games, I was trying to tell the guys they have a bad game, they're awful. I'm like, this is to get you ready. Like, this is just like a practice game. That's all it is to get ready for opening day. Your job is to be ready. At that time, March 26th, I think it was. So you're reminding them about that day because if they don't get hits for a little bit, it could go places you don't want to go in spring training mentally, about checking on your swing and throw out all the work that they put in that winter. So that's kind of a typical spring training day. 2 games are at 1:00, couple night games.
Yeah. So, right. So now with that being said, because with the Cubs, obviously completely different organization from where the Rangers were at, or for obviously from, going to American League, National League. But with that being said, you do have some games that I think there are some times where they're 2:20 p.m. games during the regular
Friday,
season.
Saturday, Sunday are at 1:20. Friday, every home weekend is at 1:20 unless we play an ESPN or some type of night game on Sunday Night Baseball or something like that. But every Friday, Saturday, Sunday is at 1:20.
Fridays, okay. Okay,
that's
yeah.
great. It's 40,000 people. That's one of the best. It's one of the best events I've ever been a part of. You come out at 1:20 on a Friday afternoon, and plus 40,000 people out there, and then you probably play, if you're there for a week homestand, so you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3-game series. That Wednesday is usually a day game, or that Thursday is usually a day game for travel for the other team to travel. So it's challenging for the players. Like you have respect for the everyday player in the big leagues. It is really hard to be an everyday player in the big leagues. To be an everyday player to play at Wrigley, to be ready for those day games, because batting practice that would normally start at 5 or 4:45 is starting at 10 a.m. and you may have had a night game. So we're pretty lenient on how we take care of our guys. The most important thing is that they stay healthy. We have 2 batting cages indoors. They can get their treatment. They can come down and get their work to where they still may be stiff from the night before. Like there's no other sport like baseball. There's no other sport that practices and plays the same day for 162 games. So to try to compare it to any other sport for me is ridiculous. So with all the travel and the time changes in all the games. So a lot of respect to our players who are able to do that and be ready and show up and post up every day.
Yeah, I can't even, honestly, I can't even imagine the schedule that you go through. And just for for the viewers, I do apologize. I said 2:20. There are times I look on the
Oh, it's
Cubs site
2:20
and
Eastern.
it's
Yeah,
2:20
2:20
Eastern time,
Eastern.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
1:20
then I
Central.
apologize. 1:20 Central. All right.
No, it's all good. Uh, but now what you were saying was that in spring training you have the whole regimen for a 1 o'clock game. Now give us a little taste of what you go through in the regular season and how it differs from a day game to a night game.
Yeah, I would say you just spend more time at the field for a night game. So the day games, you get there, 8 in the morning, whatever. And I have an apartment a few blocks away from the field. So you're able just to walk there,
Yeah.
which is a pretty cool feeling, walking around Wrigley Field in the morning, the sun's coming up. It's truly magnificent. So then you get to the field, you kind of do your same thing. You got your workout, but now you take your iPad with you when you work out and you're watching, the starting pitcher for that night, just to refresh you. You've already done it, because you never know when a player is going to come in and ask you questions. It's not always when you're physically working in the cage or in batting practice, that a player is going to come to you about who's pitching tonight, has it been doing what. So you're always preparing yourself to answer any questions, because one of the hardest things is you don't want to be caught off guard and say, I don't know, let me check. And then the timing may be off. You always want to be ready to answer questions from major league players. So from there, from there working out, then you get lunch, and then I get there before lunchtime, and then the kind of day starts. You start doing your video work, you start interacting with the players start rolling in, checking in on them, you high five them, how everything's going, trying to build that. Hey, what do you want to do today? What are you going to do? Are you going to take batting practice today? Do you need to stay inside and work? Your backspin bothering you? So you got to figure out all those things with the players. Our staff does a good job relaying message to each other. And again, now the guys start trickling down. David Bowie, Jason Hayward usually coming early. The later guys, Javi, Rizzo, KB is somewhere in the middle. Schwarber usually comes out to the end. So each guy has a specific time of when they come in before batting practice, but it's not a time that I picked out. I kind of let them run it, let them do it according to the veteran guys, because they've been there the longest. They get the senior citizen discount. They get more time, right? They've done it longer. So you let the players be accountable for that, so it doesn't get jammed up. And from there, we go to batting practice. After batting practice, they come back in, grab something to eat, and then guys will do whatever they do to get ready. Some guys will watch video of that pitcher that night. Some won't. Some will rely on me to give them the information so they don't think too much. And then the cages right around night game, right around 6:10, they start coming down. Some of the starters who like to hit before a game get a little bit of work in, whatever is machine, BP, or just some flip or tee work. And then they head out. And then, by the time I was talking the other day, by the time the first or second inning happens, like, I'm blacked out. Me and the other hitting coach, Termel, like, we're in a dugout just like zombies like this. Like, we don't even sit, because you're constantly thinking about what happened in the conversations you had. It could be powerful, negatively or positively, how our player was feeling, what things may be bothering them. Because the challenge of today's hitting coach is I like to call it as a hybrid. So, everybody breaks hitting into all these brackets, whether it's biomechanics, whether it's mental, whether it's approach driven coach. Like, to me, that doesn't make sense. You have to be able to cover everything. You got to cover the guy's swing. You got to cover, when he's not feeling good mentally, how to get him through those times or help him get through them, as they do help me get through those times. Approach wise, off the pitcher, talk to them about what's going on. Not necessarily you're giving them approach, but you're giving them options of how this guy has done and what he's done in the past. But they could always find that stuff now because of the data. They could just type in their name, just like a video game, and then match up against them, and it pulls up everything they need. So they could find that stuff. So you got to be able to handle different conversations throughout the day. And you never know when that moment's going to happen, where you may impact the player. It could be over lunch. It could be, while he's getting dressed by his locker, and you just walk by and you start talking. So you're always ready for that moment of when you want to speak to a specific guy about something, and the timing of it has a lot to do with when you approach a guy about anything.
So now, how do you do that 162 times? That is the biggest question that I have, because now this is all just for one game. Am I right? This is just, this is right. So this is just for one game. Now
it's insane. It's who would play or coach this game? It's nuts. You do the same thing next day.
Yeah, well, right. Well, I was gonna say you actually got cut off there for a quick second, but
yeah, you do the same thing the next day.
Right. So now the question that I have for you is that how do you keep you as a hitting coach, and also really for everybody, because you said it, the communication is great. You know, everyone relays information to everyone, whatever it may be, you know, and it goes up, you know, the ladder, whatever it may be. How do you keep their mental capacity? How is their mentality all the way, you know, up to, I guess, you know, the best that it could be? How do you keep it up high?
Well, as much as we say every day is the same,
right?
Never in the history of the world has there been the same day,
right?
No matter what you do, right? So maybe your routines are the same, but your conversations are still maybe a little bit more with this guy, a little less with this guy. So that kind of changes the whole dynamic of everything. There may be days where I just walk in and I'm like, okay, I'm not talking to anybody today. And there's gonna be days where they're like post, like, don't even talk to me today. Like, you know, so because it's day to day, you never know what things are going on. But I think as a coach, especially in this game, one is you got to have empathy. Put yourself in somebody's shoes of why they may be feeling a certain way, or why they may not be happy or super positive all the time, because it's a negative game and hitting is a negative part of sports. So you got to show empathy, and you have to stay so positive, and it's not fake positive. You know, it's real positive, to where you know they're not rolling their eyes, they're not going, here we go again. So, and that is established through the trust and relationship that you build in spring training through conversations, and also the ability to have real and honest conversations, you know, to where you may have to bring something up that they may not want to hear, and vice versa. They're going to tell me things that I'm like, whoa, that won't hit me between the eyes. And then you go back thinking about it, you're like, okay, you're right, I should be doing this a little bit better. So those conversations, now you look forward to them, even though they're tough. You look forward to them because you've established a trust in a relationship. So therefore, every day may sound the same as far as the times and the routines, but the actual interactions are still pretty different every day.
So, right, yeah. So they're a little different. They're the same, whatever it may be. Now, I'm gonna throw you a change up here, and I'm actually gonna rewind just a tiny bit. Now, when you were with Texas and now you come to Chicago, how small is the clubhouse and the dugout? I need to ask that, and the reason why is because at Wrigley,
the clubhouse. You mean the locker room?
Yeah, and
it's quite big.
And the reason why I ask is because whenever we watch on television, and you see how small the dugout is as opposed to other major league dugouts. Yeah. Is it really that small? Is it really that small?
The dugout is a unique shape. It's not wide. It's kind of long.
Really?
But the old dugout is down, so that's still there. But you can't really see anything because they built up so the players could sit, because you know, they added stuff when they redid all of Wrigley Field, which is an incredible job they did.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it rains, there's nowhere to go if you want to watch the game. So, but it keeps it tight. Like there's kind of weird places, but you're used to it. You know what I mean? And you embrace it. You embrace sometimes it may be uncomfortable, but how uncomfortable it could be when you're in a major league dugout, especially at Wrigley Field. Like we're really complaining about. But the clubhouse, you know, they redid Wrigley. The Ricketts family, when they came in 2016, they built underneath. To me, it's the best place in sports to be in.
I love to hear
with that. With all their history there, with the updates, kind of this cool feature. Futuristic with old school stuff, and they provide us with pretty much anything that we need as an organization that enables our players to get better. You know, you watch the ivy grow. You know, you hear the music, you hear the Go Cubs go after a win.
I love it.
And it's just you know, I tell anybody, you know, since I came back to the Cubs, and you embrace that every day, you just tell everybody, hey, you got to get out here. Like get a flight from LaGuardia. Delta shuttle, it's cheap, it's a short flight, get out there for 2 days, and let me know, because it's a blast.
Yeah, I definitely have to get out there one of these days. But for those that are watching, I do apologize for, going off course, because
Well, you know what, Fenway's the same way. Fenway's dugout is not big. It's like it's awkward, and there's poles, and there's two things, and it's far away from home plate. Like the
right.
player, has to take a cab to get to home plate. So but those are the two oldest parks in baseball, and for me, those are the two best parks in baseball.
I love it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And those are the two parks that two of the I don't even know, double-digit parks that I have not been to, but definitely one of these days I'm gonna have to take you up on that. Where I gotta come from LaGuardia and fly right out and come see you. That's for sure. So again, for those that love it, a full, conversational / interview in order. I do apologize, but I really wanted to ask Anthony that, and I have been wanting to ask you that for ever since I heard that you got this, that you were returning to Chicago.
Yeah.
But going back to the mentality of the players. Now, how does and especially in Chicago, the Windy City, as it's known for, how does the cold and warm temperature affect each individual? Like, does it affect each individual player? Does it affect them as a whole? How do you consider that?
Yeah, it definitely affects individual players. You have to have the mentality to understand that the guys on the other side, and this is me coming from New York and kind of and dealing with it early on. I've always told myself the guys on the other side are dealing with the same weather. So how can I use this to my advantage? Right? He probably doesn't want to be out there. People say the pitchers have the advantage because they have the ball. Some say the hitters have the advantage because the pitcher can't feel the ball, depending on what person you talk to, hitter or pitcher. I always felt like in bad weather, the pitchers had control, have a better advantage if that is it. But, we deal with some raunchy weather in April and May at Wrigley Field with the rain and the weather and the wind blowing right in the hitter's face. And we basically have to find ways to grind. Like, we start talking about it in spring training. Okay, we call it April ball. Okay, we got to play April ball, and that means like gritty, grindy. Like, it's going to be a 2-0 game. It's going to be a 2-1 game. Make sure we get our fundamentals in. Make sure we're able. If David Rossi gives you the sign, make sure you get it done, because we're only going to get one chance at it. So April ball is kind of like playoff ball. You know what I mean? So guys are going to be asked to do different things. Guys may be asked to bunt more, do situational hitting more, because the ball is not flying out of Wrigley in all parts of the field. It doesn't really fly out to right center that much as it is. It may go out to left center if the wind blows out as the summer gets older, but not really. So I don't think it changes your swing. It changes your mindset as a hitter, because if you get jammed in the cold, it could really sting your hands for the rest of the game to where you have to play defense. So guys don't want to do that. So sometimes guys will open up, kind of overcommit to the inside pitch, pull off, then your swing starts to break down a little bit. But it's not like your swing just goes nasty in the cold. It's just you have to find ways to continue to compete early in the season through those times. But there's, we look at it as like, this is how it's going to be in October, November. So, our guys are extremely well equipped mentally with that, to where when teams come in, we feel like we have a full advantage. And even if we go on the road that it's cold, our guys embrace it pretty good.
Now, during during, as you call it, April ball, or even during the crazy weather, as you put it, for instance, your time with the Rangers, you coached.
Oh man.
And not only that, but you also coached a man like Adrian Beltre. Now, does the age factor get put into that as well?
Yeah, before the age, but we had times in Arlington where it was over 100 degrees, and we kept guys off the field till game time for weeks, and we did all our work inside, or we would do guys one at a time with ground balls, making sure they get their defense in. So, it does affect the players, but they're big leaguers for a reason, and they're competitors for a reason. So they're gonna find a way, and you may have to talk through some guys, but for the most part, they're like, buckle on, let's go, Post. Let's go, get out there. Age. So the question is, does age factor into how I coach a player?
Yeah,
like
and
that,
right?
or
Yeah,
how they work.
Yeah. So really the
Yeah.
the most important question here is that obviously, like I said, you've coached Adrian Beltre, future Hall of Famer, before. And on top of it, now you're coaching a player who technically now, which I can't believe I'm saying this, is considered a veteran, such as Anthony Rizzo and Chris
Yeah.
Bryant. So,
Yeah.
which that's for a whole nother
Yeah.
interview, with age and everything. But, does age put, is there a factor in how you coach, but then also whenever it rains, whatever, how do you approach those older players as opposed to the younger players?
Yeah, the older players are gonna tell you exactly what they want and then ask for your feedback. Whether
Really?
Yeah, yeah. What I've learned today's game and today's players, the veteran players ask more questions than the younger guys do. And I don't know if it's because they've been around longer, they're testing you, or they continue to grow and want to get better, and that's why they've been playing so long.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the average in the big leagues is, 4 or 5 years. The everyday guy to spend 4 or 5 years in the big leagues is the average. So when you're a veteran guy and you've pushed toward middle end of your career, you've done it by being a learner.
Right.
By asking questions and then kind of coming up with your own stuff. I think the younger guys may be hesitant. They're still trying to fit in. They're still trying to find their way. They still think their way is the best way. How you coach different players, yeah, you have to coach them different. You can't treat anybody the same. I think you treat them same when they're together as a group, but when you're working with them individually, and when you have like guys like a Beltre, and then you go to the Cubs, even guys when I was with the Rangers, like Elvis Andrus, Shinju Chu, 10 plus years, Mitch Moreland, Ian Desmond, Prince Fielder was there before he got hurt. And then we had Carlos Beltran. So it was a crazy time. It was like a really veteran team. By the time I left, it was really young. It was the complete opposite. So yeah, you might be instructing more mentally to get through the game. But I think once you interact with the older veteran guy, right, for me, right from the get-go, I ask them, what do we need to do to get better? What are the things you saw last year? What are the things you saw last week? What are the things you saw last series? And I sit with the veteran guys and have them kind of talk to me, and then we go back and forth, because there's a reason why they continue to play, right? They have great ideas and they have and how to pass that knowledge to the younger group, where a younger player may not be ready to hear a veteran because he feels like the veteran is telling him what to do when he's actually not. He's just trying to help them. So young guys may interpret getting better from older players as being told what to do, as opposed to them really trying to help them and grind through it. So you play that middleman, but you definitely coach different. You still try to be the same person you are every day with each guy. You show up, you work hard, you stay positive, you do all these things. But how you approach the guy may be a little bit different. Especially in the game conversations, with the veteran guys, it's a little bit more he got me, and this is what I'm going to do next time, where a younger guy may ask you what's wrong with his swing, and you're trying to just talk him out of it, and then he's got to go play defense.
That's actually wild. And now that you said that the older players,
I'll tell you a story. Here's a quick story.
Feedback, which is,
let's
hear it.
Story,
let's hear it.
So, Beltre was unbelievable. So, and I'll tell you a couple stories because those guys might get mad at me. So Adrian's, he's got 3,000 hits or whatever. He comes to me and he would always yell at me and call me hitting coach. He's like, hitting coach, what do I got? Why do I keep missing that pitch? I said, what are you asking me for? You're the guy with 3,000 hits. He goes, you know what? You're right. I'm not listening to you. So, it's just like, those are conversations we would have in the dugout, and we would both laugh about it. It's like, what do you got 3,000? Like, I have 0. So, don't ask me. And things like, you have conversations with our guys in the big leagues, and you just like with the Cubs, and you could be like, people think you could be talking about baseball, and Riz likes to lean on you and hug you and put your arm around you and put his arm around you, and we could be just talking about what a great day it is at Wrigley Field. Like, Rizzo, like, he's really strong mentally. He reminds me of Adrian Way, where he could play injured. Seen this guy play through injuries, and he could just lean on you, and like, you're like, Anthony, I can't breathe. Like, he's leaning on you, and he's like, what a great day, Post, huh? Like, look at him, and you're just like, really? Like, go play the game. It depends the conversation. Just because it's every day, all the talk doesn't have to be baseball all the time. in the game. It's different from other sports. You know?
That's wild too, because, you know, you think of a lot of these players being in the zone and, you know, just not talking to anyone, another player. And, you know, and if they need you, they'll, you know, you figure they'll come
and
to you.
It's not even if they need you, the hitting coach. It could be, we use, like, for me as the hitting coach, I don't want them like it. Our first base and third base coach are watching them hit every day from different angles. Like,
right.
You know, go talk to Will Venable. Like, he's got some really good information. He watches you. He's coaching third last year. He coaches first. Go get him. You know, like, I just want the player to get hits and for us to win games. I don't care who instructs him, you know. And this year we hired Mike Napoli, who I coached with in the Rangers, and he's been he's awesome. Like, he's just awesome. Like, go talk to Nap.
Yeah.
You know, go see what Nap thinks.
That's unbelievable. So, and not only that too, but you also get to bring, you know, you also have someone who worked with you or you actually coached, you know, on the Rangers and bring in some of those ideas to the Cubs, which is fantastic. You know, you get some outside ideas, bring the winning mentality into Wrigley. Yeah,
I think coming back to the Cubs was the first job I ever had that it was new being a big league coach, but I wasn't going to a new organization. So I was super comfortable walking into a locker room and going right up to our players because I've known them before.
Yeah.
The only two players that I didn't know were Jason Hayward and Ben Zobrist at the time, and Daniel Descalzo. So, but those guys are such pros, man. It took one day, and you're like, oh, these guys are pros. So, you're super comfortable. You can have early conversations right away instead of having to wait a long period of time to get that trust.
That's unbelievable. And for all those aspiring hitting coaches out there, you know, regardless of whatever age you're at, and you could be, you know, you could be trying to coach a 40-year-old, and it could be exactly the way Anthony said it, where, you know, it could be a Jason Hayward, or it could be a Ben Zobrist, where, you know, those guys are pros. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that comes from, you know what else that comes from? Like, coaching in the minor leagues, you're still coaching great players, but like, I used to do lessons a ton. Like, so you're around kids ages 7 years old to, or you said grown men playing, you know, men's league. You're working with them. So you're finding different ways of how to try and reach people to get them to be their best.
Now, as you said earlier, and I love to, and I love this analogy, you know, big and wide with, or the other way around, you know, with you as a hitting coach and how you've adapted. You have now iPads available.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the biggest thing that I see here is that now it's allowed in the dugout. You're allowed to do whatever it may be. How does that, with the iPad and technology being allowed in the dugout, how does that change you as a coach?
The iPads in the dugout are scouting reports or past video that our video people do now does. To put, so it's not in game or even last game. It's just like outings to show his breaking pitch. So say Jason Hayward's coming to bat, Pose, what do you got? And I'll read him off, you know, what our boy Nate wrote or what I got for him, and like real quick verbiage. And then, okay, he'll say, let me see the iPad, and I'll pull up whoever, so-and-so versus lefties. And then it'll have the pitcher coming in, and it'll have his fastballs, and he's like, okay, let me see some sliders. Okay, and then he's gone. Then he walks out. So it just, I think the iPads are cool in a way because it shows, because you have meetings and you go over 10, 12 pitchers.
Right.
But I mean, you're not gonna, like, you're in the heat of the moment. Like, you need refreshers. You're not gonna remember every single thing that we said in the meeting. I don't even remember what I said in the meetings. So I don't know how they're going to. So it's good to have notes in the dugout to keep it simple because things happen fast. You know, the pitcher's got 8 pitchers. You want to look at some video before he runs out there. You're watching the way his fastball moves, what locations he likes to go, can he command it, and then they make their decision. Some guys won't look at the iPads. I've known guys that won't look at it. They just watch the guy warm up, and they'll just ask me what his velo is and what his secondary pitch is, and that's all the information that they want. They don't want anything clouding their judgment of what they have in going into the guy feeling confident. So they may look at something and go, uh-oh, that's not what I thought. And now they got to go compete. And now we don't ever want that.
Right.
You know, I'd rather them be all in on themselves than anything else that we provide for them.
Yeah, that's wild because, you know, obviously at one point, you know, now at one point now, did you have, or I guess in the beginning of your time in either minor league baseball or even with the Rangers, before technology was allowed in the dugout during the game or even before, where there was binders, there were, multiple papers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, does that, in terms of, I guess, preparation for you with, let's say, for instance, I don't know, let's say, for instance, preparing Anthony Rizzo for a game. If he asked you for his help or for his feedback in, I would say to, prepare him for this, for this upcoming series or for this upcoming pitcher or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Does your preparation change because of, what you could have drawn up or what you could have printed out of a printer or whatever it may be? Could you put it all on the iPad? How does that change from pregame, mid-game, during the game, whatever it may be?
The players are going to tell you what they want.
Yeah.
And if it's not out there, when we get together as a group for our meetings on the other team, we're going to bring a thing. The first thing I was bringing up, what do we do? What do we need? What do we do? Are our scouting reports good? Or is our video, are our iPads on point? Do we need to cut? Do we need to trim them? And, you provide that atmosphere where everybody's free to talk without being judged, because you want everybody's feedback, because it's all for the players. Like, so they're going to tell you exactly what they're going to need, especially with hitting, because it's so individualized, specific for each guy, the way they learn, the way they watch stuff, what they've learned in the past, what they like. So in-game dugout talk is definitely different from, it's quick, it's short, it's what has this guy been doing, to where before the game, when you're in the cage and they're, hey, has Wainwright been getting his breaking ball over consistently his last couple outings, or that conversation like that. So it's different from talking in the cage than it is in the dugout. And it's cool because you love when you hear players talking about the pitcher, because I'm not up there. Like, I'm watching from right in front of the front row.
Right.
So, like, I'm not digging in the plate, like looking at where his ball's going. So then they'll give me feedback and like, hey, let's change this ball. It doesn't really run, it sinks. So let's do that. So you definitely, you want the feedback from the players to make sure that your notes are as game like as real in real time for them.
That's pretty good. Okay. So now I do want to ask this to you, Anthony. I know it is 7:01. Are you good for like another?
Yeah, good. I'm good.
All right, good. All right, good. I don't want Sue to come running in and and yell at me or anything. All right, good.
No, she's good.
So good. So now the question to you is, and we were just talking about your time with the Rangers. Now I want to move into last year when you made your return to Chicago under then manager Joe Maddon. Now he's in Anaheim. Now you have David Ross. What's that transition been like for an older manager who obviously is, well decorated and everything like that, but now you have at one point was known as the best backup catcher in all of baseball leading your squad. What's the transition like?
Well, I think the cool thing about it is David won a World Series with Joe.
Yeah.
And talked to him pretty much all the time because he was the backup catcher. So the most talkative guy on the team is usually the backup catcher. I mean, not like chatter, but is making his rounds, making sure everybody's good as part of his job on both sides of the ball, whether it's pitchers or position players. But like, I don't think anybody knows Joe's age unless you look it up, man, because he's one of the coolest guys on the planet, right? So, definitely we'll miss Joe. I learned a lot in 1 year just about, I've always admired Joe from afar. I've always looked him up. I've always, when I was coaching in with the Marlins in Jupiter and he was playing in Tampa, I'd watch all his interviews and be like, man, that'd be cool to work for one day. And then all of a sudden, like it's the law of attraction type deal, right? It starts happening, and you're by this side and you're having conversations with them and realize you actually have things in common. And no, I didn't get the glasses like this because of Joe. Well, maybe a little bit, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But the transition to David, I mean, David hopped right in there. David has been a part of the organization since he left. So I've known David since 15 when I was coordinating, and then you'd see him around when he was working for ESPN, but he was still working for the Cubs. So last year, he'd come in town all the time. We would have conversation. He'd come in our meetings, and we would have a blast. And I would ask him, like, dude, I'm struggling with so-and-so struggling. I'm struggling with him. Like, give me something, or like, just go take him away from me and go talk to him for a while. So I didn't even really see it as a transition. they're different people, but have a lot of similarities. I mean, that's probably why they've both been successful in their thinking of the game. More importantly, how they think about a group and how they think and how they treat individuals. So there's not a whole lot of difference as far as a transition. It's kind of a cool transition. I definitely will miss Joe, so I'm gonna have, but like I love being able to work with Rossi, like especially going through his first year as a manager.
Right. And not only that too, but also, you've been a coach a little bit longer, and I'm going to throw a mini change up here at you one more time. Now with him being let's say rookie manager, now you having a little more experience, do you throw a few tips at him, maybe to, I don't know, I guess help him out, in easing the transition a little bit better?
Yeah. He's got a pretty good pulse on the clubhouse. That's probably his main strength is understanding the game, but understanding people. But I definitely come up and we'll talk to him, even in spring training, just to start that dialogue after my day before the game starts. Hey, this guy wasn't feeling too good in the cage, or he's struggling with this or this, because of the manager. They may not always go to the manager first. Yeah. So our job as the coaching staff is hopefully to squash some stuff with the bench coach, pitching coach, the hitting coach, and the other coaches, to take care of the stuff, because the manager has so many other things that he has to get ready to do, and then keep him up to date so that he can have those conversations maybe during batting practice, or he's able to call him in the office or walk around with them. So it's just another I wouldn't say give him tips or anything like that, but it's welcome conversation to get ahead. But he does go back and he's like, what was it like when you were coaching here? What was it when you were like coaching there? So one of the things about David is like, there's not necessarily like this huge ego where I'm coming in and I'm controlling everything. He lets everybody work, but more importantly, he wants more feedback to make the environment better.
Right. And that's,
he's a stud. He's a stud.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was, where I was kind of leaning towards, because, the feedback, because again, he is a rookie, and in addition, it is the structural pyramid, where it's the players and then it goes to you. And then eventually, it's just like a regular business, it goes from, associate to, we're all the way up to the top. Really, really good stuff. Now, because we are partnered right now, or this broadcast is partnered with the New York Pro Scouts Association, that I am extremely blessed and grateful to be a part of. This is actually where you and I met about, I think, like 4 or 5 years ago. I can't believe time flies when you're having fun. So the last few dinners, Iapoce Baseball, you are the owner of that, the Iapoce Baseball Convention. Back in 2017 on Division Avenue. That was a lot of fun. And
it was good.
Bring up some old memories. Alex Katz, Lou Bernardi, Danny Lackner, a whole bunch of guys were there. Now whenever you come to the dinner during your time off, what's it like just to catch up with everybody?
It's great, because that whole dinner is got me to, because I was living in the Midwest for a while, and then I came back to New York, kind of wanted to train kids and then meet connections in New York, and just kind of, so it was with the Cubs. Billy Blitzer hooked me up with Victor Felt and his organization, The Sandlot, and I spoke there, and through there, and I met Gary Perron, and met a bunch of people, and the list goes on and on. And I met you, and it was kind of cool, just meeting all kinds of people, just wanted to do the same thing, just be involved in baseball. But more importantly, like being involved with New York baseball, whether you're from the city or from Long Island, upstate, even, parts of Jersey. It's just kind of being very proud of the people who've come out of New York, and meeting with them and talking to them, and how could we make amateur side in New York better, which is our goal all the time, which is why we do this, which is why we do clinics and camps for the people and for the kids in New York. And which is the reason why they have that dinner. So it's to honor certain people, which they do a great job at the Scouts dinner, whether it's a writer or a player or a coach. So it's pretty cool to come back and see everybody every year. But now, you through Facebook and social media, you get little texts here and there, and that's always good. So you keep in touch throughout everything. So it's just so many good people in that organization. Like, you just can't name everybody.
It's true.
Incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I was beyond blessed to meet you for sure. And in addition, everyone else who could be watching right now, you're also on that list as well.
Yeah.
Now to round this off, now I'm going to ask you just a couple of general questions. And the biggest thing here that I want to know that you, Anthony Iapoce, now have some free time with the family. Let's call it free time. Have there been any, let's see, new games, new house projects, movies?
No house projects. Like, if anybody knows me and happens to be watching this, there's probably no house projects, and if it is, it's done by Sue. So she's the handy woman of it. We she put together a couple of bikes
Okay.
for our kids, and she did the closet and all this. So she's the handy person. I'm more the like, you can do it, or like, I recognize my strengths and get out of the way and just go grab the kids in the yard, and she'll go down and fix something.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now,
it's weird because I have patience with the most patient sport there is, but when it comes to like a screwdriver, I have zero patience.
Wow, that is something that I never knew about you, and now everyone watching this really knows. That's
I could
crazy.
sit and read a book for 2 hours straight and not move, but like, I just got to hand it off. I recognize it, give it to the better person, be a team player.
I was gonna say that's good. That sounds like amazing teamwork.
So no house projects unless it's done by Sue. I put together a soft toss net that was supposed to be put together in 2 minutes, and it took me like 20. So that was it.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's all right. So you know what? So now what you do is now you coach Sue, and you basically tell her, all right, you could do it. You could do this. We'll look at, we'll look at whatever.
But it just takes one look, and then you got to uncoach and get out of the way, and you got to realize the situation. Like, okay, she'll do better if I'm not here. So then she does it really quick. So.
Oh my gosh, that's too great. Now even at night, any movies, Netflix, Hulu, anything that
I would say, we watched Ozark, or we're watching The Chi right now.
Okay.
Anything. Okay, so I love documentaries. I love like sports I love like the whole Where Did It Start thing that we talked about in the beginning.
Yes.
I love where people come from and how they get to it. I could just watch the first half-hour documentary and shut it off. Like, I just need to know how they started and how they got to where they got to. So any type of documentary, I love. I would also say we are now a Marvel family.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like, we're super Marvel right now. We're getting ready to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Okay. I haven't seen it. We watched a little bit of last night, but we got to watch it again. So much that my daughter Lily wants to work for Marvel, like drawing, acting, writing stories, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I've seen, let's see, it was Guardians, but everything Marvel. And I didn't realize how good those movies were. So like, you're like, oh, it's just an action. I mean, you're just ignorant. It's just an action movie. And you watch it, you're like, whoa, that was really good. Yeah. Very entertaining. So that's kind of where we're at, like that. We're pro Marvel right now with everything.
Oh, that's pretty good. Now, then the last thing, literally last thing. Have you been watching The Last Dance?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, good. For sure. Like, I'm so mad at them for not just putting like you can't binge watch it.
I know, right? Yeah.
They know like they're gonna keep you waiting for a whole week. So I'm glad it's 2 hours, but it goes by so fast.
Oh yeah.
But it's so impressive to listen to that last season. And for me, I'm always looking at like, okay, those are how those players came together after being together for so long, and then watching Phil Jackson kind of handle all that and how he does it, and then you try to take everything you do, and not just from that, but any documentary or sporting documentary you watch on coaching or team wise. Okay, I could take a little bit of that and somehow sprinkle it to our situation with the Cubs. So definitely, are you watching it?
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh. I was gonna say, what else? Say Anthony, what else is there to watch other than Netflix? And then you haven't turned on ESPN in like a month.
Bull Durham's been on like every other night on I saw that, but you know what I got into too is I got into this year was a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of ignorant to that too, right? I thought you had to pay for this stuff, wasn't aware of it. Like, boom, start listening to it, put one earpiece in and do some other things. And then obviously, you know, I love to read. So those are the types of things that we've been doing.
So now to conclude this, we're going to call you Anthony Iapoce. Good with a baseball bat, but not with a screwdriver. I love that. That is fantastic.
Not with the screwdriver, no.
Well, I'm glad
or the hammer, or whatever, you know, the whole kit, the wrenches. No.
I'm glad we can conclude this conversation.
Menza, as they say. Menza.
I'm glad we can conclude this with a good laugh. Anthony Iapoce, Chicago Cubs Major League hitting coach. Anthony, I cannot thank you enough for joining me here on the Primetime Rundown Zoom interview series, episode number 8, season 1. Really, really appreciate you, man, for everything that we've been doing for a while, and I hope that all of this, and I hope we see you in the dugout soon, wherever it may be, if it's in Arizona, if it's Chicago, if it's here, wherever it is. But yeah, really, really good stuff. And to conclude this, episode number 24 of the Primetime Rundown will be tomorrow night, 7 to 9 p.m. My guys, Tyler Adele, Nick Partain, will join me. We'll be talking about everything in sports, which really, as me and Anthony figured out, not much going on. And then episode number 9 of the Zoom interview series, we will be having CBS This Morning's broadcast associate Darrell Bucknight with us beginning at 6 p.m. For Anthony Iapoce, I'm Joey Jarzynka. For all of us at the Eastern Observer, Blackjack Media Networks, and the New York Professional Scouts Association, I'm Joey Jarzynka. We'll see you next time.